Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, but today we got something slightly different for you. Because Taki Udon and Retro Remake have announced their next console in their MiSTer FPGA Remake lineup, and it's going to be PlayStation 1 based. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But obviously Taki Udon and Retro Remake 100% nailed it with their recreation of a MiSTer FPGA triple stack. I've reviewed it multiple times on the channel, tons of people are using it, it's doing everything that a Jurassic made DE10 Nano board would. It really is a drop-in MiSTer replacement, doing the exact same thing for a much lower cost, and you know the one thing I want is more people in the MiSTer FPGA ecosystem. Well, now his PlayStation 1 inspired console has been announced, and he's providing some details that we're going to go over today. I know a lot of people don't want to make the triple stack, or they want more of a traditional console-based MiSTer, so there's definitely going to be something that is going to be appealing to the masses, I think, with the controller ports and the memory card slots as well. And as far as the design language and aesthetics are concerned, it's more focused towards the later PS1 re-release, the slim or smaller model versus the original PlayStation 1, but I don't have one in my collection to show you. And this is focusing on PlayStation 1, but I'll explain everything else that can run later on in the video because I know that's going to be a very big question. But it makes total sense to start with PlayStation 1 design aesthetics first. It was the leader in that generation compared to Nintendo 64 as well as Sega Saturn, and this was what something Taki talked about on his overall roadmap of the MiSTer FPGA redevelopment and cloning. And if you've never played the PlayStation 1 FPGA core before by Robert or FPGA Zoom's boss, I can tell you it is now the de facto way I play all PlayStation 1 games. Not just because the laser in my PlayStation 1 is dead, but it gives me better options than real hardware while maintaining that one-to-one accuracy with real PlayStation 1 consoles. So honestly, for me at least personally, if I want to play a PlayStation 1 game today, it is going to be on the MiSTer FPGA core. And he talks about what is going to be in the console in and of itself. You're going to see 2 PlayStation controller ports, 2 memory card slots as well, and then 1 YC connector for light guns. There's going to be a micro SD card slot, obviously, 3 USB Type A's, 1 Type C for power, HDMI DIN 10 VGA component composite Ethernet, all of the different video signals you would want, including a digital audio or Toslink connector. So this thing has basically everything, including an expansion slot on the bottom, which seems to be there's going to be a dock to increase functionality, maybe even some SSDs and CD reading in the future. We're going to have to wait and see. And someone is asking if these controller ports are just going to be snack based or how they are going to connect. And if you're not familiar, snack is just a serial interface letting you use your original controllers on MiSTer FPGA with basically zero latency in the actual connection. It is how I play most of my games. It just works, and having the original controller paired with the original core makes a huge difference. And you'll see here somebody asked if the controllers are connected via snack, and Taki Udon just straight up confirms yes. That's the most standard way to get these controller inputs into MiSTer FPGA, and it is also my favorite. So basically there is just a snack adapter built into the case compared to what we usually see on MiSTer FPGA, where you have different snack adapters and controller leads that you can kind of hot swap and interchange depending on what core you're using. I've shown them off on the channel before, and I will leave a link in the description below if you want to know more about the snacks and controller options available for MiSTer. But this is going to be awesome. It's going to allow you to plug in your original PlayStation 1 controllers, the original digital pad, or the original DualShock, so you can play PlayStation 1 games on the MiSTer FPGA core with the original controller, basically treating it as close to an original PSX as you can get while having all of the creature comforts like HDMI coming out of the back without any modifications to the system needed. And of course, there's so many different snack adapters you can get from MiSTer. It really is one of the best ways to play in my opinion. But moving back to what Taki Udon and Retro Remake have been talking about, he basically showed off some of the original sketches as well when he was talking about this hardware back in spring of 2024. And that is how long this project has been going on, and obviously the MiSTer Pi triple stack has been on the market for a while now. It is well reviewed, and honestly it is interchangeable for a Jurassic board in my opinion. Half the captures you see on the channel are done on the MiSTer Pi, half of them are done on original Jurassic hardware. And this was basically the original design brief as to what this clone was going to be, and obviously it seems like Taki Udon and Retro Remake have 100% hit that. Now, as far as what else is going to work on this, a user asked on Twitter if other cores would be available, and Taki Udon states the console isn't locked down. You can play anything that a MiSTer can play. And that's obviously because this is based around the MiSTer ecosystem and that DE10 chip as well. So if you want to play Nintendo 64 on the console, seems to be like it's going to be totally doable, and that's going to be great because people don't want to just buy a MiSTer for one console. They want to be able to use the entire ecosystem, and for some users, they want that console aesthetic underneath their television versus the triple stack. So Nintendo 64, which I've been talking about for almost a year now, maybe even more, is going to be 100% playable on this new console. You would totally fine. Same thing if you go over to the Sega Saturn side of things. If every single core works, then you're going to be able to play Saturn games. And I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I hope Taki Udon and Retro Remake do a Saturn design aesthetic for a case maybe in the future as well, because that would be my preference. And of course, you have so many different arcade cores that you can play in MiSTer FPGA, and if this new console is compatible with everything in the MiSTer ecosystem, those are also going to be games you can play. It definitely leans forward into that PlayStation 1 design aesthetic and even talks about the potential of CD-based games, but that doesn't mean it just plays PlayStation 1, and I think that's going to be something that might confuse or trip people up. So I want to be very clear about that based upon Taki Udon's responses. It is going to run every core that you can run on your MiSTer FPGA today. Now, Taki Udon also mentions early ordering and slight discounts for founders and friends, and that's basically going to be people that bought the first batch of the console, or friends are going to be previous R2 customers who are going to have a guaranteed spot in the first batch if they want it. So if you've already ordered a triple stack, it seems like you're going to have the first shot at buying these new consoles, and I do kind of appreciate that, rewarding people that believed in this project. Because when it started, we covered it on the channel, I said how optimistic I was, but there was some definite pushback out there. People thought this wasn't a real thing and that the Triassic DE10 couldn't be cloned. Obviously that couldn't be further from the truth. I did the full build of the MiSTer Pi when it came in on camera, and I've done comparisons as well, and every single thing on the MiSTer Pi is running exactly the same way as it would on MiSTer FPGA with a Triassic DE10 Nano, and I understand that this can slightly be confusing to people wondering if the MiSTer Pi is just a MiSTer FPGA, and it is. Just think about a PC with a different card inside of it. It does the exact same thing, it's just made by a different company. Think of something like EVGA versus any other GPU maker. The chip on the board is the same, it's just a different board from a different vendor, and that's what MiSTer Pi has been. It's a drop-in replacement for the Triassic DE10 board, and the triple stack has proven to be reliable and every bit as good as my original MiSTer hardware has been. Somebody did ask about how much memory is included, and there was no response from Taki Udon, but somebody does mention that if it has analog video out, it's a good chance it's only a single 128 megabyte RAM chip inside, and that logic does track, although you could go direct video with 256 megabytes as well if you had dual RAM. But right now, the only core of any fundamental importance that runs on dual RAM is the work-in-progress Atari Jaguar core, and there is another developer working on a single RAM version of the core as well. So maybe at launch, if this only has 128 megabytes, maybe it won't run something like Atari Jaguar, but I'd say 90% of the MiSTer builds out there won't run Jaguar either, because I feel like 9 out of 10 people went with a single 128 megabyte RAM stick versus dual RAM. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, is your MiSTer build single RAM or dual RAM? Obviously I have both for testing purposes, but the MiSTer hooked up to my television just for gameplay is still a single RAM variant, and I know that the Saturn has that dual RAM core as well that's going to give you slightly better performance in a few select games, but honestly SRG320 has been bringing those kind of close to par on a little bit of a speed up mode on the single RAM core as well. So honestly, really, it is just Jaguar at this point in time that uses that dual RAM and has to. And Taki Udon talked about all the way back in May 3rd of 2024 about the roadmap. The $99 MiSTer board we already have, then we have flagship MiSTer console, MiSTer handheld, mainstream MiSTer console, and then low-cost cartridge variant. And there isn't any news yet or updates on that handheld MiSTer FPGA, but that is definitely one that I'm 100% looking forward to, because I love MiSTer FPGA. Obviously I talk about it a lot on the channel, but the one thing it can't do yet is be portable out in the world, so I can't wait for something like that to happen. But the people that have been waiting for a really nice aesthetically designed MiSTer FPGA style console to put next to their television are going to be very excited very soon, because this console looks great. It's going to play the entirety of the MiSTer FPGA ecosystem, and it seems like with a dock it might even be playing CDs in some way, shape, or form. I'm looking forward to hearing more details on how that might work. But honestly, MiSTer FPGA and the entire community around it just keeps getting better and better, and I expect to see a lot of fun stuff happening in 2025. It's only January 9th as I'm recording this video, and you're going to watch it later today. We still have basically 350 some odd days of the year to see what MiSTer does. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Leave me a comment down below, tell me if you're interested in the console, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.